system. It's critical that we keep AM radio in cars because when cell and internet services are down, this free emergency service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
News time, 8 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Wednesday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast. Brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. The city of Clinton has several balls in the air as it tries to remedy its failing elevator at City Hall and exploring the possibility of a new City Hall building. At the Tuesday night Clinton City Council meeting, City Administrator Taylor Baxter told the council they have a vendor that is willing to do a complete assessment and give a bid.
Actually, I have good news this time. I'm shocked. As we talked about this, our current vendor is really struggling to maintain our elevator. Quite frankly, they're not doing it at all. It's not even struggling, they're not doing it at all. We've since went out to other vendors in the area, and we have talked with a supplier, Koenig, out of Peoria. They're actually going to be here tomorrow. I don't know what time. But they're going to do a full inspection. They're going to look at everything that we have, and they're going to get us a firm price on what it would be to replace that elevator. The goal is to get it done as soon as we can, but they said even if we approved it tomorrow, it would still take 6 months for it to be completely done.
In the meantime, there is the possibility the elevator could be patched enough to be functional. Baxter hopes to have more information on that possibility later this month.
They talked to me about potentially patching it while the design is getting done and they're manufacturing the parts. Time will only tell if they can do that, but they said that's their goal is to get it up and going in the meantime for us. So by the next meeting, I should have, working with John on our current contract, how to get out of that. Pending everything works out the way we hope it does, I could have a proposal for you guys at the next meeting for replacing the elevator. So, getting there. Making progress. We're getting there, finally.
Action from the Clinton City Council meeting Tuesday night. The council approved the 2024 summer maintenance street work for just short of $109,000. The council approved a PPE extractor for the fire department at a cost of just short of $4,500. And the council approved $10,000 for Celebrate Clinton's annual 4th of July fireworks display. A Clinton entity needs a new HVAC system, and it is going to be quite the undertaking. Executive Director of the Warner Library in Clinton, Bobby Perryman, told Regional Radio on the WHOW Morning Show Tuesday the current system is original to the building's newer addition.
Our build, we actually have two buildings, and even though they're attached together, they are kind of two separate buildings. Our original is from 1906. And then what we call the quote-unquote new building is from 1992. And I didn't realize how old our new building is until I started hiring people that are younger than our building. And it's that building now is over 30 years old and is starting to run into issues. And there were some, I don't want to necessarily say corners cut, but things done when it was built that weren't ideal, that we're just running into issues with, and they're starting to come to a real head now in our building.
According to Lucas Snow, maintenance director at the library, the system creates a lot of moisture buildup, which can make the library uncomfortable for patrons, but it also isn't great on the books, particularly the older books.
Basically, the main issue we're having right now is involving our HVAC equipment, because everything that we're currently using, except for the chiller, which cools the water for our building, was installed in 1992, and most of these products have a 30-year shelf life, so we're at the end of life regardless of what's going on. The main issue that our building faces day to day is humidity and what we would call negative pressure, so it's constantly trying to bring in outside air because there's not quite a balance there. So what we see in the summer is a lot of condensation and a lot of moisture in the windows and just kind of a clammy feeling when you walk in.
Which is not good for books.
That was my next point. With the age of a lot of our books in our collection, we haven't seen any signs of like humidity damage or water damage, but it's something that we think about as far as not keeping the humidity levels in there consistent. So that's definitely a big one, not to mention leaks. So we have the pipes that feed our building are all 30 years old also, and they see chilled water in the summer, which is around 40 degrees, and then they see hot water in the winter, which is around 130 degrees. So that constant flip-flop has taken its toll, which is a normal thing. So basically now we're coming to the point of whether we decide to upgrade our current system or replace it with something new.
Perryman predicts the cost will end up over $1 million. She credits the library board for its fiscal responsibility.
So the timeline is we are supposed to have a full design by the end of summer. So the engineers have been out and they have been extremely thorough, going through both buildings top to bottom, measuring every room and figuring out what exactly we need. And with the idea of construction actually beginning in the spring.
Yes.
It just takes that long to get or order the equipment. Ordering everything takes longer. And the engineers are wanting to make sure they do it right, because we don't have a completely solid number yet, but the board was able to approve over $1 million for this project, which we will not pay all at once. It will be paid out through as the project progresses. And it's money that we are not allowed as a government entity to have quote unquote savings. We're just not allowed by law. But we have what we call our working cash fund, which we were able to levy for 4 years. And that's kind of our emergency savings. And that's what we are using. We've also done some cutbacks and done a lot of efficiencies just in our normal annual budget to where we have been able to save usually around $20,000 to $30,000 a year that we just don't spend, that we can put into our capital accounts to pay for this project.
The project should get underway next spring or summer. Perryman hopes to see limited interruptions to services. However, notes they have backup plans in place in the event they need to temporarily vacate the building. News time is 14 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Wednesday. We've got plenty more coming your way next on The Morning Show.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. This is what we do every day. We listen to you, give you options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that's knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full-service dealer. See us at baumchevybuick.com right from the start.
News time, 15 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Wednesday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. There's 3 priorities for the Illinois Farm Bureau as the 2024 state legislative session comes to an end. Chris Davis is the Illinois Farm Bureau Director of State Legislation.
You know, we've already identified 3 major issues that we're going to need to continue to talk to legislators about this summer, fall. The Estate Tax and Family Farms Preservation Act, the importance of soil and water conservation districts, and wetlands. Those are 3 major issues coming out of this session that deserve significant attention by legislators and from our membership in their conversations with legislators this summer and fall. I'm honored to have been able to represent family farms across Illinois in the General Assembly this past session. It was truly a blessing, and I'm proud of our state legislative team and Mark Rainey and Christina Nori and all that they do for the membership of Illinois Farm Bureau.
The spring legislative session wrapped up last week. The Illinois Specialty Growers Association is promoting Summer Horticulture Days this Thursday at the Jonah Mack Orchard in Malta. Jenny Speichel is happy to be hosting.
So Summer Hort Day is probably my favorite event of the year. It is a chance for growers to get together and tour a farm with specialists from the University of Illinois and Extension. And this year we are hosting it at our farm here in DeKalb, or in Malta, as you had mentioned, near DeKalb. And I'm excited to have everybody out to the farm. We're going to talk about our specialty crops on the farm. We grow apples, pumpkins, flowers, and also do some agritourism activities. We have a corn maze, a bakery and a store and a cidery. So those are going to be some of the things that we're going to highlight on the tour. Our industry is so wonderful that, everybody is very hospitable and welcoming. And when we all get together like this, it's almost like a family reunion. We work together to talk about problems. We show each other, what we're doing. And, having all these other growers here is a really great opportunity, not only for me to show what I'm doing up here, but also kind of get their opinion on what I could try or see, what I could do better and get feedback from other experts in the industry.
More information is at specialtygrowers.org. Put on sunscreen, wear a hat, stand in the shade. These are probably a few things you've heard once or 1,000 times over the years by a parent or teacher or coach. However, roughly 5.5 million basal and squamous cell skin cancers are diagnosed each year, affecting more than 3 million people. Some individuals have more than one skin cancer. Skin cancers are by far the most common type of cancer in the United States. The American Cancer Society says this is probably due to better skincare detection, people getting more exposure to the sun, and people living longer. But what are we forgetting? Tim Smile is a radiation oncologist with OSF Healthcare and breaks down key tips for people to remember before heading outside. He says use broad spectrum sunscreen.
When you're choosing a sunscreen, it's also good to pick one that has good UVA and UVB protection, so a broad spectrum one. And if you have any specific questions about that, you can talk to your primary doctor or a dermatologist.
He encourages you to not forget the tops of your ears, the back of your neck, or between the tops of your chest and your neck.
A lot of people wear nice baseball hats that cover their faces really well, but the tops of your ears and the neck, and even, right here in this top of your sternum area can get exposure to the sun without you realizing it. And so, keeping an eye on those areas and just making sure that you're applying sunscreen there is helpful.
A cloudy day doesn't mean the UV rays aren't there.
If it's overcast, you could still get UV exposure on your skin. And so that's something to keep in mind.
Dr. Smile says the sun is the strongest from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and recommends using the shade, wearing a broad-brimmed hat, and applying sunscreen as good first steps. But don't forget to reapply, as sunscreen does not last all day. The general recommendation is reapply every 2 hours during the day.
In my practice in radiation oncology, we deal with high-risk skin cancers because the vast majority of skin cancers get looked after with topical treatments or minimally invasive surgeries and things like that. The vast majority of my practice ends up being head and neck because it's just an area that is usually not covered by your clothing.
Rarely, skin cancers can present with locally advanced tumors requiring radiation therapy.
A lot of times, skin cancers that happen in this area are not only cosmetically challenging to deal with surgically, but higher risk of spreading along nerves and things like that. And so a lot of challenging cancers can present in the head and neck area, which is why it's so important to minimize your exposures.
A lot of times, skin cancers that can happen in the head and neck are not only cosmetically challenging to deal with, but surgically, but have a higher risk of deep invasion, spreading along nerves, or spreading to lymph nodes. And don't forget your lips.
A lot of people don't apply sunscreen to their lips, and the lips can get sunburned and get skin cancers or cancers due to UV exposure there too. So you can find lip balms that have SPF in them.
Dr. Smile says you should speak with your primary care provider and or dermatologist once a year to keep things in check. An amendment to the 2024 Farm Bill could prohibit intoxicating hemp products across the nation. The amendment, sponsored by Illinois Republican Congresswoman Mary Miller, would federally criminalize hemp-derived products. While the amendment passed out of the House Committee on Agriculture, Congressman Darren LaHood shared his thoughts.
I'm not on the committee, but there was an amendment sponsored by Rep. Mary Miller from Illinois that would prohibit intoxicating hemp products. So I think the key term on that is intoxicating. And so I know that the amendment did pass, I'm going to have to research that amendment and find out exactly what it does. We in Illinois have an industrial hemp business here. There's a number of companies that are involved with that, using industrial hemp for production of many different things in manufacturing. And so I'm going to follow that and make sure that we're not hurting small and medium-sized businesses in Illinois.
Despite passing the House Committee on Agriculture, the Farm Bill amendment is up for debate on the House floor. If the bill passes the House, it heads to the Senate, where Democrats could vote against the amendment. The Illinois budget was passed by the House early Wednesday morning of last week. The budget shows $53.1 billion in spending, tax changes, migrant care, and more. Illinois State Representative Brad Halbrook says the changes in his operations he's experienced this year and the 1% grocery tax in Illinois is now a choice that will be made by cities. Halbrook says that when it comes to taxing citizens, there should be a vote as to whether or not an action is taken.
You know, it's a record span, $53 billion. There's more borrowing in here. There was an expansion of about $2.5 billion of borrowing, and then there's more taxing, somewhere between $750 million to $1 billion worth of more taxing here on our job providers and other people across the state. So the grocery tax repeal, was done 2 years ago during the election cycle. It was a temporary relaxation of that 1%. We thought that was a good idea. We called for that to be made permanent, and the governor talked about that in his budget speech back in February to repeal that grocery tax. The issue is it doesn't really cost the governor any money. That money's all collected locally and stays locally. Well, that idea continued to gain momentum. When we finally got the language, that bill was 181 pages long to repeal the grocery tax. Okay. Now, the details is it not only repeals the grocery tax, but it allows the local city councils or county government to reinstitute that. Okay. Without a voter referendum. So we like the idea of repealing taxes or reducing taxes, but we also like the idea of tax increases or borrowing to go before the voters.
Every year, an additional $350 million goes towards the evidence-based funding formula, and new to this year's budget, funds have been delegated to advance education for migrants.
ISB, the State Board of Education, and Representative Crespo became before our Appropriations Committee. ISB was asking for $35 million. Representative Crespo was asking for $188 million to fund education of newcomers, illegal aliens. So that's something over $200 million there to fund education of students in school that were, had English learning issues. Always because of the evidence-based funding formula, there's always an additional $350 million. Wow. That's just always, and that's stacked on top of the stuff that's been in existence since 2017 when that law became into existence. So I think the number is getting somewhere between $10 and $11 billion for K-12 education in addition to funding higher ed. But yeah, there's just built-in accelerators, if you will, on the K-12 funding, and that continues to grow at a $350 million pace.
Representative Halbrook describes the 3 a.m. shenanigans, as he calls it, where supermajority Democrats give final approval with the 60 votes needed.
So just to give you just a little backstory, a week and a half ago, we were trying to get adjourned by Friday the 24th of May. That didn't happen. We went back in on Saturday, spent all day, basically left about 9:30 Saturday night the 25th. It appeared at that point in time that all the budget bills were going to be in the Senate, and they didn't get that passed on Saturday night the 25th. About 12:10 Wednesday morning, we adjourned that previous day, and the reason why this was all kind of important is bills have to be read in each chamber on 3 different days. That's in the Constitution. Okay, so the budget bill passed out of the Senate on a Sunday night. They came in on Sunday, the 26th, and so that bill came to the House on Monday, day 1. Tuesday was day 2. And so while we were there, they just kept us overnight, if you will, in the chamber. We adjourned about 12:05 Wednesday morning. Well, there was then a procedural move put into place called postponed consideration. Okay. The bill, after a few minutes, came back up, was voted on again. And at this point in time, it looked like it was kind of, when you look at the board, you could see 60, 61, 62 votes, and it was just kind of going back and forth there for a few seconds, and it finally landed at 60 votes. Again, our floor leader called for a vote verification. Okay, what was interesting, it was there was a Republican that had voted the 60th vote.
Representative Halbrook's comments mirror many made by Illinois Republicans after the budget's passage last week. In April, the Illinois State Treasurer's Office generated over $126.4 million in investment earnings from the state investment portfolio. This was announced by Illinois Treasurer Michael Frericks. The Illinois Funds Local Government Investment Pool, managed by the State Treasurer's Office, earned $88.8 million in gross investment earnings for participating cities, villages, school districts, counties, and other government units. Frericks says this earned interest income can be used to fix roads, repair bridges, purchase school supplies, and invest in local communities. He highlights the role of the Treasurer's Office in contributing to local solutions through financial management. Treasurer Frericks, as the state's chief investment and banking officer, oversees the state's investment portfolio and the Illinois funds. For transparency, detailed monthly metrics are available at the website iltreasurervault.com. To date, in 2024, the Treasurer's Office has earned more than $501 million for the state portfolio. The office assists state agencies, boards, and commissions in managing and investing public funds that are not immediately spent. News time is 29 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Wednesday. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in